Imagine waking up in complete darkness with nothing but the sound of wind moving through thousands of trees. No streetlights, no flashlight, no phone, no fire, just endless blackness stretching in every direction. Somewhere nearby, a branch suddenly snaps, then silence. Your heart begins to race because you know one terrifying fact. Whatever made that sound can probably see you, but you can't see it. For ancient humans, this wasn't imagination. It was reality almost every single night. Long before cities covered the earth with lights, forests became completely different places after sunset. During the day, they offered food, water, and shelter. But once the sun disappeared behind the trees, the same forest transformed into one of the most dangerous environments a human could enter. Every shadow seemed alive. Every strange sound carried the possibility of death. And unlike us, ancient humans had good reasons to be afraid. More than 100,000 years ago, humans were not the rulers of the natural world. They were simply another animal trying to survive among creatures that were faster, stronger, and far better adapted to hunting in the dark. Lions, leopards, wolves, hyenas, bears, giant snakes, and saber-toothed cats didn't fear humans. Humans feared them. Today, when people imagine prehistoric life, they often picture humans confidently hunting giant animals with spears. While that certainly happened, it tells only half the story. For thousands of years, humans were just as often the hunted as they were the hunters. Night changed everything. During daylight, humans relied on one incredible advantage: vision. Our ancestors evolved excellent color vision and remarkable ability to detect movement across open landscapes. Working together, they could often spot predators before predators reached them. But the moment darkness arrived, that advantage disappeared. Most large predators possess something humans never evolved: night vision. A leopard can move almost silently through darkness while seeing several times better than a human. Wolves hunt using extraordinary hearing and smell. Owls can detect tiny movements from incredible distances. Even today, if you walk through a forest at night, countless animals know exactly where you are long before you notice them. Ancient humans understood this without knowing the science behind it. They simply knew one terrifying rule: if the sun went down before you reached safety, you might never see another sunrise. This fear shaped human behavior in ways that still influence us today. Notice how uncomfortable most people feel when standing alone in a dark forest. Even if they know dangerous animals aren't present, something deep inside the brain begins sending warning signals. That reaction isn't irrational, it's ancient. Scientists believe our brains still carry survival instincts formed hundreds of thousands of years ago. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for detecting threats, reacts faster in darkness because darkness historically meant increased danger. In other words, your fear of dark forests may actually be inherited from ancestors who survived by respecting them. Then there were the sounds. Forests become surprisingly loud after sunset. Leaves rustle without wind. Insects create endless buzzing. Branches crack unexpectedly. Unknown animals call to each other across the darkness. Without modern knowledge, every sound demanded attention. Imagine hearing a deep growl somewhere beyond the trees. Would you investigate? Ancient humans didn't. They stayed close together because isolation almost always increased the chance of becoming prey. Community wasn't just about friendship, it was survival. Small groups gathered around campfires every evening. Fire provided warmth, but its greatest value wasn't heat. It created light. A circle of light pushed darkness away just enough for humans to see approaching danger. Even more importantly, most predators avoided flames. Researchers studying modern wildlife continue observing the same behavior today. Wolves hesitate around large fires. Big cats usually avoid active flames. Bears often change direction after detecting smoke. Ancient humans may not have understood why fire worked. They only knew that it did. That discovery completely transformed human survival. Before humans mastered fire, nights belonged almost entirely to predators. After fire, the balance slowly began changing. The glowing campfire became much more than a source of warmth. It became humanity's first safe zone. Families gathered around flames, sharing food and telling stories, while unknown eyes watched from beyond the light, because those eyes were almost certainly there. Modern camera traps placed inside forests regularly capture predators walking only a short distance from campsites, cabins, and hiking trails without ever being noticed by humans. If that still happens today, imagine what happened 50,000 years ago. Ancient forests held far greater numbers of predators than modern ones. The darkness wasn't empty. It was full of life, and much of that life hunted after sunset. Yet predators predators weren't the only reason forests inspired fear. Darkness itself changes how the human brain works. Vision provides nearly 80% of the information we use to understand the world around us. Take vision away, and imagination immediately fills the empty spaces. A fallen tree becomes a crouching animal. A moving shadow becomes an approaching predator. A twisting branch looks like reaching fingers. Psychologists call this pareidolia, our brain's tendency to recognize meaningful patterns where none actually exist. Thousands of years ago, this mental shortcut often saved lives. Mistaking a bush for a lion wasted only a few seconds. Mistaking a lion for a bush could end your entire bloodline. Natural selection rewarded cautious people. Generation after generation, humans who assumed the worst survived more often than those who ignored possible danger. That's why our brains still expect hidden threats in darkness today. The forest became more than a place. It became a symbol of the unknown. And whenever humans face the unknown, stories are born. Centuries before anyone understood biology, ancient people believed the forest itself was alive. Nearly every civilization imagined invisible beings hiding among the trees after sunset. The Celts spoke of mysterious woodland spirits that protected sacred groves. In Japan, travelers feared the forests because they believed powerful spirits wandered beneath the branches. Across Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas, people who had never met each other somehow reached the same conclusion. The forest changed after dark. Today, we recognize these stories as mythology, but mythology usually begins with a real human experience. Imagine walking through a dense forest, carrying only a small torch. The flickering light barely reaches a few feet ahead. Behind you, thousands of trees disappear into complete darkness. Every gust of wind makes branches sway like moving figures. Shadows dance across the ground. Somewhere in the distance, an animal lets out a scream unlike anything you've ever heard. Many animals sound terrifying at night. Foxes produce high-pitched screams that resemble human cries for help. Mountain lions make noises eerily similar to a woman screaming. Owls create deep, haunting calls that echo through entire forests. Even deer can produce strange sounds that seem almost supernatural. Without knowing these animals existed, what would you believe? To ancient humans, the simplest explanation was often that something unnatural lived in the darkness. The forest encouraged that belief because it constantly played tricks on the senses. Fog drifted silently between the trees, making distant shapes appear and disappear within seconds. Moonlight filtered through moving branches, creating figures that seemed to walk before melting back into shadow. Thick roots stretched across the ground like giant snakes waiting to strike. Even experienced hunters admitted the forest became unfamiliar after sunset. Landmarks vanished. Paths disappeared. Directions became meaningless. Getting lost wasn't just inconvenient, it was often fatal. Unlike open grasslands where the stars could guide travelers, dense forests blocked the sky almost completely. A person could walk in circles for hours without realizing it. The deeper they wandered, the harder it became to find their way back before sunrise. Many never did. Archaeologists believe countless ancient people simply disappeared after becoming separated from their groups. Some likely died from exposure. Others probably encountered predators. Some may have fallen into ravines or drowned while trying to cross rivers in darkness. To the people waiting back at camp, there was no explanation. Someone entered the forest and never returned. Stories quickly filled the silence left behind. Parents warned children not to wander into the woods after dark. Elders spoke of invisible creatures that punished anyone who ignored the rules. These tales weren't only meant to frighten people. They were survival lessons disguised as stories. A child who believed monsters lived beyond the campfire was less likely to wander away at night. Fear became education. Generation after generation, those stories spread until they became part of entire cultures. Even after humans invented better tools, stronger weapons, and permanent villages, the fear didn't disappear overnight. Because the forest still held one enormous advantage, it could hide almost anything. An enemy tribe could be waiting behind the trees. A starving bear could be searching for food. A pack of wolves could silently surround travelers without making a sound. Unlike mountains or deserts, forests concealed danger until the very last second. Perhaps that's why campfires became so important. They weren't just sources of warmth, they became symbols of safety itself. Inside the circle of firelight, families laughed, shared food, planned planned hunts, and watched over one another. Outside that glowing circle, the unknown waited patiently. In many ways, the campfire became humanity's first boundary between order and chaos. Inside, the light was community. Outside, the light was uncertainty, and uncertainty has always been one of humanity's greatest fears. Yet something remarkable slowly began to happen. Instead of avoiding forests forever, humans started learning them. Hunters memorized animal trails. Gatherers discovered edible plants hidden beneath the trees. Trackers learned to identify footprints that others couldn't even see. Little by little, knowledge replaced fear. The forest itself hadn't changed. Humans had. Every generation understood the wilderness a little better than the one before. The shadows became slightly less mysterious. The sounds became slightly more familiar. The monsters slowly transformed into animals with understandable behavior. But even today, if you stand alone in a forest after midnight, switch off every light and listen carefully, you'll probably notice something. Your heartbeat becomes louder. Your breathing slows. Every small sound suddenly feels important. Deep inside your brain, ancient survival instincts quietly wake up once again. Those instincts aren't relics of a primitive past. They're living reminders of the world that shaped our species. The ancient humans who feared forests at night weren't weak. They weren't foolish. They survived because they respected dangers they couldn't fully understand. And thanks to that caution, they lived long enough to pass those instincts on to us. Thousands of years later, modern cities have replaced many forests with streets and buildings, but our brains still remember a time when darkness belonged to something else. Perhaps the greatest mystery isn't why ancient humans feared the forest. Perhaps it's why a small part of us still does.